Water sloshing, labored breathing, pills rattling. Woman, whisper broken. 17. That's all it takes. Sound of pill bottle dropping. Water ripples. Woman. I'm sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry. Violent crash. Door explodes. Water erupts. Man. Voice like a blade. Stop. Woman, gasping, thrashing. No, let me go. Hands grabbing, struggle. She's pulled from water. Man, grabbing her throat, not choking, forcing eye contact. Look at me. Look at me. Woman, sobbing. I can't do this anymore. Man, you think death is mercy? You think disappearing solves anything? Woman, screaming. You don't know what they did to me. Man, deadly quiet. I know exactly what they did. Woman, terrified whisper. How do you know my name? Man, because I've been watching you for 6 months, waiting for this exact moment. Woman, watching, you're insane. Man, cutting her off, ice cold. Dr. Elias Rowe, Seoul National University. He stole 6 years of your research, published it under his name, sold it for $80 million. Your visa expires in 39 hours. You have $212 left. Your mother in Lagos is about to lose her restaurant because you can't send money anymore. Her breathing stops completely. Man, your little brother called you 5 times yesterday. You didn't answer, because you were already planning this. Woman, voice cracking. Who are you? He leans closer, his breath against her ear. Man, the only person who knows you're worth more alive than dead. Woman, shaking. I don't understand. Man, you will, because I own you now. Woman, what? Man, standing, speaking to his men. Get her in the car, sedate her if she fights. We're leaving in 60 seconds. Woman, panicking. Wait, this is kidnapping. Help, someone. Man, turning back, voice dropping to a deadly whisper. Scream all you want, Dr. Adeyemi. No one's coming. And by sunrise? Pause, then final as a coffin closing. Man, you'll thank me for this. At 2:43 a.m., Naima Adeyemi swallowed 12 pills and sank into a bathtub. At 2:46 a.m., a man she'd never met kicked down her door. He didn't ask permission, didn't call police, didn't save her. He took her. And what she didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that the man who dragged her from death's door wasn't her savior. He was a mafia boss with a dead wife and a thirst for revenge. And she was the weapon he'd been waiting for. This is the story of how a woman who wanted to die became the most dangerous person alive. What happens next will leave you speechless. Hello, lovelies. Welcome to Afro-Korean Story Vault. Subscribe now, because this story, it only gets darker. The water had been cold. Naima remembered that part clearly. She'd filled the bathtub in the cheap hotel room at the edge of Hansong's industrial district, watching the steam rise and then fade as the minutes ticked by. The pills sat in a neat row, on the chipped porcelain edge. 17 of them. White, small, final. She'd written the note on hotel stationery. 3 sentences. No apologies. Just facts. Her visa expired in 48 hours. Her bank account held exactly $212. Her research, 6 years of work, nights without sleep, hope compressed into data and formulas, had been stolen, published under someone else's name, and was now generating millions she would never see. Dr. Elias Rowe had smiled when he did it, called her brilliant, called her essential, then erased her signature from every document that mattered. The bathwater was supposed to be warm, but she'd waited too long. Her hands shook as she reached for the first pill. This wasn't supposed to be how it ended. Coming to Korea had been the dream, the research fellowship, the breakthrough, the chance to prove that a girl from Lagos who'd studied by candlelight during power outages could stand shoulder to shoulder with anyone in the world. Instead, She was about to disappear without a trace in a hotel that charged by the hour. She swallowed the first pill dry, then the second. The third went down easier. By the 7th, her vision started to blur at the edges. By the 12th, she slid down into the water, letting it close over her face. The ceiling above her wavered, became abstract. The weight in her chest felt almost peaceful. Then the door exploded. Not opened. Exploded. Wood splintering, hinges ripping from the frame with a sound like bones breaking. Water sloshed over the edge of the tub as Naima jerked upward, gasping, choking, pills still dissolving bitterly on her tongue. A man stood in the doorway, tall, wearing all black. His face was sharp angles and cold calculation, and behind him, 3 more men in tactical gear fanned into the small bathroom like they were breaching a war zone. "Get her out," the man in black said. His voice was quiet. That was what terrified her most. No shouting. No panic. Just absolute certainty. Hands grabbed her. Naima tried to scream, but her throat wouldn't cooperate. She was lifted from the tub, water streaming from her clothes, her hair plastered to her face. Someone wrapped a towel around her shoulders, but she couldn't stop shaking. "Who?" she managed. "Who are—" The man in black stepped closer. Up close, she could see the scar that cut through his left eyebrow, the way his dark eyes seemed to catalog every detail of her face with clinical precision. "How many did she take?" he asked one of his men. 12, maybe 15. Benzodiazepines. "Get the medical team ready, now." Naima's legs buckled. Strong arms caught her before she hit the tile. She looked up at the man who'd given the orders, this stranger who'd just torn through a locked door like it was made of paper. "Let me die," she whispered. "Please, just let me—" His hand caught her chin. Not roughly, but firmly enough that she had no choice but to meet his eyes. "No," he said. Simple. Final. "You don't get to die yet, Dr. Adeyemi." The world tilted. He knew her name. Her real name, not the fake one on the hotel register. How did he know her name? "I don't understand," she breathed. "You will." He released her chin and stepped back. "Take her to the car. Carefully." "Wait." Naima tried to pull away from the hands supporting her. "You can't just— I don't know you. This is kidnapping." "Yes," the man said calmly. "It is." The admission shocked her into silence. He wasn't even pretending this was something else. No claims of rescue or concern. Just cold, hard truth. As they carried her toward the shattered doorway, Naima caught one last glimpse of the bathtub. The remaining pills floated on the surface like tiny white lifeboats. The suicide note was soaked through, ink bleeding into illegibility. The man in black picked it up, glanced at it, then let it fall back into the water. "You wrote that you had nothing left to lose," he said without looking at her. "You were wrong." Then she was in the hallway, moving past shocked hotel staff who immediately looked away, trained not to see, not to ask questions. Down the service stairs. Into an underground garage where a black sedan waited with engine running and windows tinted to opacity. They put her in the back seat. The man in black slid in beside her. The door closed with a heavy final sound. Naima's heart hammered against her ribs. The medication in her system made everything feel distant and close at the same time. She was being kidnapped. This was actually happening. She should scream, fight, do something. Instead, exhaustion crashed over her like a wave. "Who are you?" she asked again, her voice small. The man studied her for a long moment. His expression gave away nothing. "Kang Jae-Min," he said finally. "And you, Dr. Adeyemi, are going to live whether you want to or not." The car began to move. Naima watched the lights of Hansong blur past the window, each one taking her further from the death she'd chosen, and deeper into something she couldn't yet name. Her last conscious thought before the medication pulled her under was that she'd never seen eyes as cold, or as haunted, as Kang Jae-Min's. When Naima woke, she thought she was dead. The ceiling above her was pristine white, too clean, too perfect. Heaven, maybe, or the morphine dream before the end. Then pain bloomed in her temples and she knew she was still alive. She tried to sit up. Couldn't. Her wrists were restrained to the bed rails with soft leather cuffs. Medical grade. The kind designed not to leave marks. Panic arrived like ice water in her veins. The room was large, enormous actually. More like a luxury hotel suite than any hospital she'd ever seen. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed a private garden beyond, manicured hedges and stone paths illuminated by soft landscaping lights. The bed was king-sized with silk sheets. An IV drip fed into her left arm. Medical monitoring equipment beeped quietly in the corner. And, sitting in a chair beside the bed, reading something on a tablet with the calm of someone waiting for a train, was Kang Jae-Min. "You're awake," he said without looking up. Naima pulled against the restraints. "Let me go." "No. You can't keep me here." "I can." He finally looked at her. "And I am." "This is insane." Her voice cracked. "You don't even know me. Why would you—" "Dr. Naima Adeyemi." He set the tablet aside and leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Born in Lagos. Full scholarship to University of Ibadan. Master's degree from Cambridge. Doctoral research in advanced cellular regeneration at Seoul National University under Dr. Elias Rowe. Your work focused on using stem cell modification to reverse degenerative tissue damage. 6 years of research, 347 days in the lab without a single day off. You were 3 months from a breakthrough that would have changed regenerative medicine forever." He paused, let each word sink in like stones. "Then Dr. Rowe published your research under his name, sold the patents to Helix Pharmaceutical for $80 million. You filed a complaint with the University Ethics Board. It was dismissed within a week. Your visa renewal was mysteriously delayed. Your apartment lease was terminated. Your bank accounts were flagged for suspicious activity. In 6 weeks, you went from rising star to invisible." Naima's throat closed. Every word was true. Every single one. "How do you know all that?" Kang stood, walked to the windows. His reflection in the glass showed a man in his mid-30s, tailored black shirt and slacks, hair swept back from a face that belonged on a movie screen, if the movie was about beautiful monsters. "Because I needed to know everything about you before I decided whether you were worth saving." "Worth?" She almost laughed. "Almost. I tried to kill myself. What possible value could I have to you?" He turned, and for the first time she saw something flicker across his perfect features. Something that might have been pain, or memory, or both. "Your research wasn't stolen for money, Dr. Adeyemi. It was stolen because it threatened the wrong people. People who make billions by ensuring certain diseases stay incurable. And one of those people?" He moved closer to the bed. "Is my stepsister." Naima stared at him, processing, failing to process. "Seo Hwa-rin," Kang continued, CEO of Helix Pharmaceutical. She's been systematically burying every cure, every breakthrough, every innovation that might cut into her profit margins. Your work wasn't just brilliant. It was dangerous. So you kidnapped me to... what? Use me as leverage against your sister? No." He reached out and touched the restraint on her left wrist. Didn't remove it, just traced the edge with one finger. "I kidnapped you because 3 years ago, I watched my wife die from degenerative tissue disease, the kind your research could cure. Hwa-rin had access to experimental treatments. She refused to provide them. said they weren't ready. They were ready. She just didn't want to set a precedent. The words hung in the air like smoke. "I'm sorry," Naima heard herself say, and meant it. "Don't be sorry." Kang's hand fell away from the restraint. "Be angry. Be furious. Be whatever you need to be. But don't be sorry. Because you and I?" He met her eyes. "We're going to destroy her." Naima's heart rate spiked. The monitor beeped faster. "You're insane." "Probably." He almost smiled. Almost. "But you have two choices, Dr. Adeyemi. You can fight me, refuse to cooperate, and I'll keep you comfortable and safe in this room until you change your mind. Or," he paused, "you can decide that maybe dying wasn't the revenge you wanted. Maybe living and taking back everything they stole from you, maybe that's better." She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was wrong. But a small, dark part of her mind that she'd tried to drown in that bathtub was whispering something different. What if he was right? What if the best revenge wasn't disappearing? What if it was rising from the grave and burning down everyone who'd tried to bury her? "The restraints," she said quietly. "Remove them." "Not yet. I'm not going to hurt myself. Not because of that." Kang's expression was unreadable. "Because you're still metabolizing the pills you took. Your judgment is compromised. In 12 hours, when the drugs are fully out of your system, we'll talk again. Until then," he moved toward the door. "Rest, eat, think. The bathroom is through that door. Someone will bring you food every few hours. Try to keep it down." He paused at the threshold. "And Dr. Adeyemi? Welcome to the compound. You're going to be here for a while." The door closed behind him with a soft click. Naima heard the lock engage. She was alone in a beautiful prison with silk sheets and a man who'd saved her life for reasons that had nothing to do with mercy. She closed her eyes, tried to slow her racing thoughts, failed completely. Because somewhere beneath the fear and confusion, a spark had ignited that she'd thought had died 6 months ago when Elias Rose smiled and stole everything. Anger. Pure, incandescent, clarifying anger. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to keep breathing for. The first 3 days passed in a blur of monitored meals, medical checks, and silence. Naima learned the shape of her prison quickly. The suite was on the second floor of what appeared to be a private estate. She could see gardens below, a high stone wall in the distance, security cameras rotating on fixed schedules. The bathroom had a window too small to fit through. The door stayed locked, but the restraints came off after 24 hours, just as Kang had promised. He visited twice a day, morning and evening. Never stayed long. Asked questions about her research, her process, what she'd need to reconstruct her work. She answered some questions, ignored others, tested the boundaries of his patience. He had, more than she expected. On the 4th morning, everything changed. Naima woke to find Kang standing at the windows, watching the sunrise. He hadn't knocked, hadn't announced himself, just appeared. "Get dressed," he said without turning. "Something other than the hospital gown. There are clothes in the closet." "Why?" "Because I'm taking you somewhere." She didn't move. "Where?" "Somewhere that will make you decide whether you want to destroy my stepsister, or whether you want to keep feeling sorry for yourself." The words stung. Intentionally. Naima threw back the covers and stalked to the closet. Found jeans that fit perfectly, a black sweater, boots. Everything her exact size. Of course, he'd known everything else about her. Why not her measurements? She dressed quickly, anger making her movements sharp. When she emerged, Kang was waiting by the door. "Follow me," he said. "Don't run. Don't try to escape. There are 43 armed guards on this property, and every single one has orders to stop you." Gently, If possible. Not gently if necessary. You're a real prince, Naima muttered. No, Kang said as he opened the door. I'm really not. He led her through hallways that belonged in architectural magazines. Marble floors. Original art on the walls. Everything whispered money and power and danger. They passed several men in dark suits who nodded at Kang and studied Naima with professional detachment. They took an elevator down, not to the ground floor. Lower. Sub-basement, Naima realized as the doors opened to reveal a sterile white corridor lined with reinforced doors. Each door had a biometric scanner. Security cameras every 10 feet. The air smelled like disinfectant and expensive technology. Kang led her to a door at the end of the hall, pressed his palm to the scanner. The lock disengaged with a heavy thunk. After you, he said. Naima stepped through and stopped breathing. The room was a research lab, state-of-the-art, better than anything she'd had access to at the university. Centrifuges, microscopes, gene sequencers, computer terminals with processing power that would make most institutions weep with envy. And on every screen, every surface, every carefully organized station, her research. Not Elias Rowe's sanitized, stolen version. Her actual research. The raw data. The failed experiments. The breakthrough moments. All of it. Exactly as she'd left it before it was taken from her. How? Her voice failed. I acquired it, Kang said simply. From 12 different sources. University servers, Rowe's private files, Helix Pharmaceutical's secure databases. It took 3 months and cost more than your university's entire annual budget. But it's here. All of it. Naima moved deeper into the lab like someone in a dream. Touched a keyboard, pulled up a file, saw her own notes staring back at her. Her thought process laid bare in formulas and observations. Why? She whispered. Kang came to stand beside her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him. Close enough to be dangerous. Because Hua-Rin didn't just steal from you, he said quietly. She stole from everyone who could have benefited from your work. Every patient who died while she suppressed your research. Every family destroyed by diseases your cure could have prevented. He pulled up another file. Medical records. Hundreds of them. 3 years ago, my wife was patient 0 in what should have been your clinical trial. But Hua-Rin decided profit margins mattered more than human lives. So she buried it. Buried you. And everyone who came after. Naima stared at the screen. At faces of people she'd never met. People who'd died. People who were still dying. I can't, she said. I can't just... I don't have the resources, the team, the... You have me, Kang interrupted. My money, my connections, my protection. Everything you need to finish what you started. He turned to face her fully. But more than that, you have a choice. You can stay a victim. Stay broken. Stay the woman who tried to drown herself in a cheap hotel bathtub. Or... He paused. You can become the woman who stood up and said no, who took back her work, her life, her power. Naima's hands shook. She pressed them flat against the lab table. And if I say yes, if I agree to this, what happens when we're done? Kang's expression didn't change. Then you decide who you become. It wasn't an answer. Not really, but it was honest. And honesty, Naima was learning, was a rare commodity in her new world. She looked around the lab, at her stolen dreams reconstructed in steel and glass, at the ghost of the woman she'd been before Elias Rowe smiled and erased her. I need full autonomy over the research, she said. Complete control of the methodology, the trials, everything. Non-negotiable. Done. I need to know exactly what you expect from me, what your endgame is. No more cryptic bullshit. Kang's mouth curved slightly. Not quite a smile. I want Hwarin to lose everything. Her company, her reputation, her freedom. I want her to watch as the research she tried to bury saves millions of lives. And I want her to know that you, the woman she tried to destroy, were the one who did it. That's not revenge, Naima said. That's obliteration. Yes. No hesitation. It is. Naima should have been horrified. Should have walked away. Should have demanded he take her back upstairs and never speak to her again. Instead, she felt something unfurl in her chest. Something fierce and hungry and alive. One more condition, she said. Name it. When this is over, when we've destroyed her and everything she built? Naima met his eyes. I walk away. No strings, no debts. I'm free. Kang was silent for a long moment. Something flickered across his face. Disappointment, maybe, or understanding. Agreed, he said finally. When this is over, you're free. He extended his hand. A business deal, a partnership, a pact with the devil in expensive Italian shoes. Naima took it. His grip was firm, warm. The first human contact that hadn't been forced since she'd woken in this place. Then let's burn it all down, she said, and meant every word. The next 2 weeks fell into a rhythm. Naima spent 12 to 14 hours a day in the lab, reconstructing protocols, running simulations, pushing her research forward with resources she'd only dreamed of before. Kang provided everything she asked for without question. Specialized equipment arrived within 48 hours. Access to restricted journals, downloaded and waiting the next morning. Lab assistants? 3 brilliant graduate students appeared, all of them carefully vetted, all of them sworn to secrecy. But it was the nights that surprised her. Kang appeared every evening around 8, never announced, just there, standing in the doorway of the lab or her suite, watching her work with those dark, unreadable eyes. At first she ignored him, then she started expecting him. Then, and this was the dangerous part, she started looking forward to it. He never stayed long, 20 minutes, half an hour. They talked about the research, about next steps, about logistics. But sometimes the conversation drifted to her childhood in Lagos, to his years building the empire that put him in control of half of Hansong's underground economy, to the wife he'd lost, and the grief that had calcified into something harder. Why organized crime? Naima asked one night. They were in her suite. She'd finally been given permission to move freely within the estate grounds, though she knew better than to test the boundaries. Kang sat in the chair by the window. She sat on the bed, tablet in hand, reviewing data. Because legitimate business is controlled by people like Hwarin, he said. People who buy laws and break them with equal ease. The only way to fight that kind of power is with power they can't legislate away. That's a convenient rationalization. It's the truth. He looked at her. I'm not a good man, Dr. Adeyemi. I've killed, destroyed, built an empire on fear and blood. I won't apologize for that. But I've never pretended to be something I'm not. Unlike your stepsister. Unlike my stepsister, he agreed, who hides behind philanthropy and press releases while people die for her profit margins. Naima set the tablet aside. Tell me about your wife. Kang's expression closed. She thought he wouldn't answer. Then, slowly, he began to speak. Ji-yeon. She was a violinist. We met at a charity gala I was attending to. Scout potential business opportunities. His mouth curved without humor. She knew exactly who I was, what I did, didn't care. Said everyone deserves beauty in their life, even criminals. She sounds extraordinary. She was. The words were quiet, heavy. The disease started slowly. Tremors in her hands, then her legs. The doctors said 5 years. She had 18 months. By the end, she couldn't move, couldn't speak. could only look at me with those eyes and... He stopped, swallowed. Huarin could have saved her. The treatment existed. She just wouldn't authorize it. I'm sorry, Naima said. And she was. Genuinely. Don't be. Kang stood. Because every day, I wake up and think about destroying the woman who killed my wife. And now I have the means to do it. That's not something to be sorry about. He moved toward the door. Kang, Naima called. He paused. Why tell me this? You could have just kept me locked up, forced me to work. Why let me know? You? He looked back at her. And for the first time since she'd met him, his expression was completely unguarded. Because you asked, he said simply. And because I thought you deserved an honest answer from someone. For once. Then he was gone. Naima sat in the silence of her gilded cage and tried to ignore the way her chest tightened at his words. Tried. Failed. The nightmare came on the 16th night. Naima woke screaming. Not the breathless gasp of someone startled awake, but a full-throated scream of terror that tore from her throat like something living. She was drowning again, pills dissolving, water closing over her face. But this time, when Kang burst through the door, he was too late. This time, she died alone in that bathtub, and no one came, and no one cared, and... Naima. Strong hands on her shoulders. Real, warm, alive. Naima, look at me. She opened her eyes. Kang was there, kneeling beside the bed, still in his dress shirt and slacks like he'd been working. His hands were steady on her shoulders, grounding her. I'm here, he said. You're safe. I was drowning, she gasped. I was dying and no one... I know. His voice was impossibly gentle. I know. She realized she was shaking. Full-body tremors she couldn't control. Kang didn't let go. Just held her steady until the shaking subsided enough for her to breathe. How did you get here so fast? She asked. Something flickered across his face. Guilt, maybe. I was in the hall. Why? Because you have nightmares, he said quietly. Every third night. Around 2 a.m. I've been monitoring. Naima should have been angry, should have felt violated. Instead, she felt something dangerously close to grateful. That's deeply creepy, she said. I know. Also probably actionable. Also that. A beat. Then, impossibly, she laughed, broken and watery, but real. You're the worst kidnapper ever, she said. I'm really not. But there was something almost warm in his eyes. But I appreciate the feedback. He started to withdraw. Naima caught his wrist without thinking. His skin was warm under her palm. She could feel his pulse, steady and strong. Stay, she said. Then quieter. Please. Kang went very still. Naima, not like that. Just stay. Until I fall asleep. I don't want to be alone. She could see him calculating, weighing options, probably running through a dozen reasons this was a terrible idea. Then he moved, pulled the chair closer to the bed, sat down, never breaking contact with her hand. Tell me about Lagos, he said. When you were young? So she did. Talked about her mother's restaurant, the smell of jollof rice and plantains. Her father who'd died when she was 7 but who'd taught her to love science before he went. Her brothers who thought she was crazy for wanting to study medicine. The power outages that made her memorize textbooks by candlelight because she couldn't rely on the light staying on. Kang listened, asked questions, let her voice fill the darkness. And somewhere between describing her first microscope and the scholarship that changed everything, Naima's eyes grew heavy. I'm falling asleep, she murmured. That's the idea. Don't leave. I won't. Promise? Kang's thumb brushed over her knuckles, gentle, almost reverent. I promise, he said. Naima let her eyes close. Let sleep take her. And for the first time since she'd woken in this place, she didn't dream of drowning. When she woke in the morning, Kang was gone. But there was a blanket draped over her shoulders that hadn't been there before. And on the bedside table, a note in precise handwriting. "You asked me to stay." I did. JM Naima pressed the note to her chest and tried very hard not to think about what that meant. The breach happened on day 23. Naima was in the lab, running protein sequencing on her latest batch of modified stem cells, when the lights went red. Emergency lockdown, alarms shrieking, the reinforced doors slamming shut with hydraulic hisses. She looked up from her microscope. What? The door exploded inward. Not the lab door. The one at the end of the corridor. The one that led to the outside world. Through the reinforced glass walls of the lab, Naima watched as armed men in tactical gear flooded the hallway. Not Kang's men. Different uniforms, different weapons, different purpose. One of Kang's guards went down, shot twice in the chest. His blood sprayed across the white walls in crimson arcs. Naima's scream caught in her throat. Then Kang was there, appearing from somewhere deeper in the compound, gun drawn, moving with lethal precision. He dropped the first attacker with a headshot, the second with 2 to the chest. His face was perfectly calm. This was who he really was. Not the man who sat with her during nightmares. The killer. The monster in expensive clothes. "Get down!" One of Kang's men shouted at her through the glass. Naima dropped behind the lab table. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it would crack her ribs. More gunfire, screaming, the sound of bodies hitting the floor. Then, horribly, silence. Naima lifted her head. The hallway was carnage. 6 attackers down. 3 of Kang's guards down. And Kang, standing in the center of it all, gun still raised, breathing hard. His eyes found her through the glass. "Stay there," he mouthed. She nodded. What else could she do? Kang turned and ran deeper into the compound. Hunting. Naima stayed frozen behind the table, hands pressed to her mouth to keep from sobbing. This was real. This was what living in Kang Jae-Min's world actually meant. Not silk sheets and research labs. Blood and bullets and death. The lab door hissed open. Naima's head snapped up. A man in tactical gear stood there. Not one of Kang's. His weapon was raised, pointed at her. "Dr. Adeyemi," he said, "you're coming with us." "No." The word came out strangled. "Yes." He stepped into the lab. "Ms. SEO would like to speak with you. About your research. And what you've been doing with her stolen property." Seo Hwarin, Kang's stepsister, the woman who'd buried Naima's work. She'd sent these men. She knew where Naima was, knew what Kang was planning. "I won't," Naima said. The man smiled. It wasn't kind. "You don't have a choice." He grabbed her arm, yanked her to her feet. Naima fought, clawed at him, kicked. It was like fighting stone. He dragged her toward the door. Then Kang appeared, not running this time, walking. Gun raised. Face absolutely empty of everything except cold, focused purpose. "Let her go," he said. His voice was quiet, deadly. The man holding Naima pressed his weapon to her temple. "One more step and I paint the walls with her." Kang stopped, but his gun never wavered. "You're going to die in the next 30 seconds, Kang said conversationally. "The only question is whether she dies with you." "Your move," the attacker said. Time crystallized. Naima could see Kang calculating, could see the moment he made his choice. He shot her. Not the attacker. Her. The bullet went through her shoulder. Clean, surgical, instantly disabling but not fatal. Naima's legs gave out. The attacker's grip loosened in surprise. Kang's second bullet took the man between the eyes. Naima hit the floor, blood spreading hot and fast across her sweater, pain exploding through her shoulder like lightning. Above her, Kang moved. 3 more shots, 3 more bodies dropping. Then he was kneeling beside her. "I'm sorry," he said, his hands pressed against her shoulder, stopping the bleeding. "I'm so sorry, but it was the only way." "You shot me," Naima gasped. "I know." "You shot me. I know." His face was stricken, more emotion than she'd ever seen from him. "But if he'd killed you, I couldn't live with that. This way you live." Blood loss made everything hazy. Naima tried to focus, failed. "I hate you," she whispered. "I know," Kang said, and his voice cracked, actually cracked. "I'm sorry." Then medical personnel were there, lifting her, moving her. Kang stayed close, his hand in hers, blood on both of them. Naima's last conscious thought before the darkness took her was that she'd never seen anyone look as broken as Kang Jae-Min did in that moment, the one who'd shot her to save her life. She woke to low lighting and the smell of antiseptic. Her shoulder was wrapped, throbbing, but clean, professional. She was in her suite again. The medical equipment had been updated. Kang sat in the chair by the window, head in his hands. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "You shot me," Naima said. Her voice was rough. His head snapped up. Relief flooded his features so completely it was almost painful to witness. "You're awake." He stood, crossed to the bed in 3 strides, stopped himself from reaching for her. His hands flexed at his sides like he didn't know what to do with them. "How do you feel?" "Like I got shot." Naima tried to sit up. Pain lanced through her shoulder. She hissed. "Don't move." Kang pressed the call button for the medical staff. "You need to stay still. The bullet went clean through, but you lost a lot of blood." "You shot me," Naima said again. She needed him to acknowledge it, to own it. "Yes." No excuses, no justifications, just flat acknowledgement. "Why?" Kang sat on the edge of the bed, carefully, like approaching something fragile. "Because he would have killed you the second we were clear of the compound. Used you as leverage and then disposed of you. But a wounded hostage? One actively bleeding?" He met her eyes. "That's a liability. He had to let you go to secure his own escape. And in that split second, I could take the shot." "You calculated all that in the time it took to aim?" "Yes." Naima stared at him. At this man who'd saved her life by nearly taking it. Who'd kidnapped her to give her purpose. Who sat with her through nightmares and built her a laboratory and just committed murder in a hallway to keep her breathing. "I should hate you," she said quietly. "You should," Kang agreed. "I should demand you let me go. Report you. Run as far from you as possible." "Yes. But I'm not going to." The words surprised her even as she spoke them. "Because you're the only person who's ever looked at me and seen someone worth saving. Worth keeping alive. Even when I didn't." Kang's expression did something complicated. Pain and relief and something darker. Something that looked almost like longing. "Naima!" The medical team arrived. 3 people in scrubs, checking her vitals, examining the wound, adjusting her IV. Kang stepped back. Let them work. But his eyes never left her face. When they'd finished and retreated, leaving instructions and pain medication, silence fell heavy between them. "How many died?" Naima asked. 4 of my men, 11 attackers, all accounted for. Because of me." "No." Kang's voice went hard. "Because Hwarin found out what we were doing and decided to eliminate the threat. This isn't on you. This is on her. She knows I'm alive." "Yes. She'll come again." "Yes." Kang moved back to the bed. Sat closer this time. "Which is why we're moving up the timeline. Your research, How close are you to having something viable? Naima's mind, despite the pain medication making everything soft at the edges, shifted into clinical mode. 3 months if I push hard? Maybe 2 if I cut corners on the verification protocols. Cut them. That's dangerous. If something goes wrong, if Hwarin gets to you first, nothing else matters. His hand found hers on the blanket, covered it. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Could she? Trust the man who'd kidnapped her, shot her, dragged her into a war she hadn't chosen? The man who'd also saved her life twice, built her a laboratory, and looked at her like she was something precious and terrifying all at once. I don't know, Naima admitted, but I know I'm not walking away. Not now. Not when we're this close. Something fierce and possessive flashed across Kang's face. You realize what this means? If you stay, if you see this through, there's no going back. Hwarin knows about you now. Even if we succeed, she'll never stop hunting you. Then we better make sure we destroy her completely. Kang's hand tightened on hers. You've changed. You changed me. Naima met his gaze steadily. The woman who tried to die in that bathtub? She's gone. You made sure of that. Now you get to deal with whoever I'm becoming. And who is that? Naima smiled. It wasn't a kind expression. Someone who's done being erased. Someone who's ready to burn it all down. For a long moment, Kang just looked at her. Then slowly, he lifted her hand to his lips, pressed a kiss to her knuckles. The gesture was old-fashioned, almost courtly, completely at odds with the blood still staining his shirt cuffs. Then let's give you the match, he said against her skin. The next 6 weeks were a blur of controlled chaos. Naima worked 18-hour days, pushing her research to the breaking point. Kang moved her to a safe house, not the compound, somewhere deeper in the city, hidden in plain sight above a warehouse that processed legitimate imports. The security was triple what it had been before. Armed guards on every floor, biometric scanners, panic rooms. Kang was there constantly, not hovering, but present, working his own angles, gathering intelligence on Hwarin's operations, building the case that would bring down her pharmaceutical empire. They fell into a rhythm. Work, strategy sessions, stolen moments of something that felt dangerously like intimacy. One night, 3 weeks after the attack, Naima found Kang on the roof of the warehouse. The city spread below them in rivers of light. He was smoking, something she'd never seen him do before. Didn't know you had vices, she said, moving to stand beside him. Everyone has vices. He offered her the cigarette. She took it, drew once, coughed, handed it back. You okay? Shoulders healing. Research is on track. Men with guns haven't tried to kill me in 21 days. She looked at him. Define okay. Kang smiled slightly. Fair point. They stood in companionable silence. Below them, Hansong hummed with life, unaware of the war being waged in its shadows. I got a message today, Naima said, from my mother. Kang went very still. How? I have a secure line. For emergencies. Naima's throat closed. She said my brothers came to visit, said there'd been a fire. The restaurant burned. No one hurt, but everything destroyed. And there was a message left. On the wall outside. What did it say? Give us the doctor. Naima's hands shook. She pressed them against the rooftop railing. Hwarin sent people to Nigeria, to my mother's restaurant, to threaten my family. Kang moved, fast. His cigarette dropped, forgotten. He caught Naima's face between his hands, forcing her to look at him. Listen to me, he said. I have people on the way right now. Your mother, your brothers. They'll be on a plane to Singapore by tomorrow night. New identities, Protected location. Hua Rin will never find them. You already arranged this. The second I heard about the fire. Yes. Tears burned behind Naima's eyes. She blinked them back furiously. Why? Why do you keep... Because you matter. Simple. Devastating. Because the idea of you in pain makes me want to burn the world down. Because, somewhere between pulling you out of that bathtub and watching you nearly die in my arms, you stopped being a tool for revenge and became... He stopped, jaw working. Became what? Naima whispered. Everything. The word was raw, honest, terrifying. You became everything. Naima's breath caught. She should pull away, should maintain boundaries, should remember this was a man who'd built an empire on violence and fear. Instead, she rose on her toes and kissed him. Kang froze, for one heartbeat. 2. Then his arms came around her, careful of her healing shoulder, and he kissed her back like a drowning man finding air. It wasn't gentle, wasn't soft. It was desperate and fierce and tasted like smoke and vengeance and something dangerously close to hope. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Kang pressed his forehead to hers. This is a terrible idea, he said. The worst, Naima agreed. It complicates everything. Completely. We should stop. We should. Neither of them moved. Naima. Her name was a prayer and a curse on his lips. If we do this, if we cross this line, I can't promise I'll ever let you go. I know. She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. And that should terrify me. But right now, all I feel is alive. For the first time since Lagos, I feel alive. And I'm not ready to give that up. Even if it means staying in this world? My world? Even then, Kang studied her face like he was memorizing it. Then slowly, he smiled. A real smile. The kind that transformed his entire face from beautiful and dangerous to just beautiful. Then stay, he said, and let's finish what we started. They went back downstairs, to the lab, to the work. But something had shifted. The air between them was electric now, charged with possibility and promise and the kind of inevitability that comes from two people who've seen each other's darkness and chosen to stay anyway. 3 days later, Naima had her breakthrough. She called Kang to the lab at 4 in the morning. He arrived within minutes, still in sleep clothes, the first time she'd seen him in anything other than perfectly tailored suits. What is it? He asked. Naima pulled up the data on the main screen. I did it. The cellular regeneration protocol. It's stable, replicable, ready for human trials. Kang stared at the screen, at the culmination of 6 years of work, 6 weeks of hell, and one woman's refusal to stay dead. You're sure? 98%. The remaining 2% is just standard margin for real-world variables. But Kang? She turned to face him. This works. This could save millions of lives. Everything Hua Rin tried to bury. It's here. It's real. And it's mine. Kang crossed the lab in 3 strides, pulled her into his arms, held her like she was the most precious thing in the world. You're extraordinary, he said against her hair. Do you know that? Absolutely extraordinary. Naima let herself have this moment, let herself believe, just for a second, that everything would be okay, that they could win, that she could have both revenge and redemption and maybe, just maybe, something that looked like happiness. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Dr. Adeyemi. The voice was female, cultured, cold. My name is Seo Hua Rin. I believe you have something that belongs to me. Naima's blood turned to ice. Kang's entire body went rigid beside her. I don't have anything of yours, Naima said carefully. Really? Because my sources tell me you've been quite busy. reconstructing research that was legally acquired by my company. Using stolen data to undermine legitimate pharmaceutical patents. That sounds like theft to me. The research was mine. You stole it. I paid for it. Legally. Not my fault your mentor understood business better than you did. Hua Rin's voice dripped poison. But I'm not calling to debate intellectual property law. I'm calling to make you an offer. I'm not interested. You haven't heard it yet. I want you to destroy whatever you've been working on. All of it. The data, the samples, everything. In exchange, I'll forget this entire unpleasant incident. You can disappear. New identity. New life. Enough money to start over anywhere in the world. And if I refuse? Then I'll destroy you, your family, and my dear stepbrother who thinks he's clever. A pause. I know where you are, Dr. Adeyemi. I've known for weeks. I could have ended this at any time, but I wanted to give you a chance to be reasonable. Kang grabbed the phone, put it on speaker. Hello, sister, he said. His voice was arctic. Jae-Min. Hua Rin sounded almost amused. Still playing hero? How's that working out for you? Better than your attempt at corporate espionage. Is that what we're calling it? I thought it was just good business, like when I refused treatment for your dying wife. Nothing personal. Just economics. Kang's hand tightened on the phone so hard Naima thought it would shatter. You're going to pay for that, he said quietly. With what? Your petty revenge fantasy? Please. You're a criminal, Jae-Min. I'm a respected CEO. When this is over, I'll still be standing. And you? She laughed. You'll be nothing. We'll see, Kang said. 48 hours, Hua Rin continued. Dr. Adeyemi destroys her work, or I destroy everything she loves, starting with her mother. The line went dead. Naima stared at the phone, then at Kang. His face was absolutely empty. She's bluffing, Naima said. My mother's in Singapore. She can't. She's not bluffing. Kang set the phone down carefully. She has resources I can't match. Connections I can't break. And she's right. She's been watching us this whole time, letting us work, letting us think we were winning. So what do we do? Kang looked at her, and in his eyes she saw something that made her heart stop. We end this, he said. Tomorrow night, before she can make another move. How? We give her what she wants. He pulled out his own phone, started typing rapidly. We tell her we're done, that you'll destroy the research, that we surrender. And then? Kang's smile was sharp enough to cut. And then we make sure she's there to watch when we prove every patent she stole was built on your work. When we release the cure she tried to bury. When the world learns exactly what kind of monster Seo Hua Rin really is. That's not revenge, Naima said. That's a declaration of war. Yes. Kang reached for her, pulled her close. Are you ready for that? Naima thought about the bathtub, the pills, the water closing over her face. She thought about 6 years of stolen dreams and unanswered emails and doors closing in her face. She thought about families destroyed by diseases that could have been cured if one woman hadn't decided profit mattered more than human life. She thought about her mother's restaurant burning, about the fear in her brother's voices when they'd called to tell her, about Kang's wife dying while the cure sat in a locked vault somewhere. Yes, she said. I'm ready. Then tomorrow night, Kang said, we finish this. The next day crawled by with excruciating slowness. Kang spent hours on encrypted calls, coordinating with people Naima never saw. She backed up her research onto 7 different secure servers, some in Korea, some in countries she'd never been to. Insurance, Kang called it. Making sure Hua Rin couldn't erase her work, even if she tried. By evening, everything was in place. They took a car across Hanseong, past the glittering downtown towers where legitimate business happened, into the industrial district where the city's true power brokers met in shadows. The building was nondescript. abandoned factory on the outside. Inside, a meeting hall that had hosted peace talks between rival syndicates, business deals worth billions, and more than a few executions. Kang had arranged for neutral ground. Switzerland rules. No weapons, no violence, just talk. Every major player in Hanseong's underworld would be there. Witnesses to make sure neither side broke the rules. "She'll be furious," Kang said as they approached the entrance. "She likes to control the narrative. Having an audience removes that power." "Good," Naima said. Her heart hammered, but her hands were steady. "Let her be furious." They entered together. The hall was massive. Exposed beams overhead. Concrete floors. A long table in the center with chairs on either side. Men in expensive suits lined the walls. Representatives from every criminal organization in the city. Here to watch, to judge, to remember. And at the far end of the table, perfectly composed in a white suit that probably cost more than Naima's entire education, sat Seo Hwa-rin. She was beautiful. Naima had expected that. You didn't build an empire without knowing how to weaponize charm. But there was something reptilian about her perfection. Something cold behind the practiced smile. "Jae-Min," she said. "And the infamous Dr. Adeyemi. How dramatic." "Hwa-rin." Kang pulled out a chair for Naima. They sat across from his stepsister. "Thank you for coming." "Did I have a choice? You made quite the production of this meeting. Everyone who matters is here." Her eyes swept the room. "Though I'm curious why you felt you needed an audience for your surrender." "We're not surrendering," Naima said. Her voice was steady. Clear. "We're offering you a choice." Hwa-rin's attention focused on her like a laser. "How generous. What kind of choice?" "The kind where you get to decide how you want to be remembered." Naima pulled a tablet from her bag, set it on the table. "This contains documentation of every patent Helix Pharmaceutical has filed in the last 8 years, cross-referenced with my original research, time-stamped, verified by independent third parties." She pulled up the first comparison, her dissertation notes on one side. A Helix patent filed 3 months later on the other. The similarity was undeniable. "This one generated 40 million in revenue last year," Naima continued. "This one saved 16,000 lives, while keeping treatment costs high enough that another 30,000 died waiting for access." She pulled up another. "This breakthrough in tissue regeneration? Mine. Published in my name. Then mysteriously attributed to your research director 2 weeks later." She kept going. Patent after patent. Theft after theft. The documentation was airtight. "You built an empire on stolen research," Naima said. "My research. And you buried every cure, every treatment, every breakthrough that might hurt your bottom line." Hwa-rin's smile never wavered. "Prove it." "I just did." "No. You showed me documents that could be fabricated, research that could be coincidental, patents that my lawyers would shred in minutes." She leaned forward. "You have nothing that would stand up in court. And without that, you're just a bitter graduate student with delusions of grandeur." "You're right," Kang said, "which is why we're not taking this to court." He pulled out his own tablet, turned it toward Hwa-rin, pressed play. The video was grainy. Security footage from somewhere in Helix Pharmaceutical's headquarters, but the audio was crystal clear. Dr. Elias Rowe's voice. "The Adeyemi research could change everything, but if we release it, we'll lose billions in existing treatment revenues." Hwa-rin's voice. "Then we don't release it. We file the patents under our names, bury the original source. And if anyone asks questions, we make sure they can't ask them for long." Rowe. "What about the girl?" Hwa-rin. "Let her visa expire. She'll be deported before she can make noise. And if she doesn't leave quietly, Make sure she has an accident. The video ended. Silence crashed through the hall like a physical thing. Hua Rin's perfect composure finally cracked. Just slightly. Just enough. Where did you get that? Your head of security, Kang said pleasantly. Turns out he was embezzling and needed a way to buy my silence. The footage was his insurance policy. Now it's mine. This proves nothing. It's just me protecting my company's intellectual property. From the woman who created it? Naima's voice cut like a blade. While discussing ways to ensure I had an accident if I didn't comply? That's not business. That's conspiracy to commit murder. I never actually... Doesn't matter. Kang leaned back in his chair. Conspiracy is enough. And we have more. 3 years of emails. Financial records showing payments to researchers whose work mysteriously appeared in your patents. Testimony from 12 different scientists who were threatened, silenced, or worse. He looked around the room, at the witnesses, the power brokers, the men who ran Han Seong's shadows. Everyone here knows what happens when you steal from the wrong people, he said quietly. When you cheat. When you think you're too powerful to face consequences. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Hua Rin's hands clenched on the table. You're trying to destroy me with circumstantial evidence, and he said she said? Please. No, Naima said. We're offering you a choice. She pulled out a contract, slid it across the table. Option 1. You sign this. It transfers all patents derived from my research back to me. You issue a public statement acknowledging the theft. You pay restitution to every patient who died because you suppressed treatments. And you resign from Helix Pharmaceutical. Never. Option 2. Kang's voice dropped to something dangerous. We release everything. The video, the documents, the testimony. Not to the courts, to the press. Every major outlet in Korea and internationally. By tomorrow morning, your name will be synonymous with corporate greed and medical malpractice. Your board will have you removed by sunset. Your fortune will evaporate in lawsuits. And you'll spend the next decade fighting criminal charges. He paused. Oh, and I'll make sure every single person you ever threatened, everyone you ever hurt, they know exactly where to find you. Without your money, without your protection, without anything. Hua Rin stared at them. For the first time, Naima saw genuine fear in her eyes. You wouldn't dare. Try me, Kang said. I've been waiting 3 years to watch you lose everything. Don't think for a second I'll hesitate now. The silence stretched. Naima's heart hammered. This was it. The moment everything either worked or exploded catastrophically. Finally, Hua Rin spoke. If I sign this, what guarantee do I have that you won't release the evidence anyway? My word, Kang said, which in this room, among these witnesses, is binding. More murmurs of agreement. In Han Seong's underworld, a promise made in front of the syndicates was unbreakable. To violate it meant war. Hua Rin knew that. Naima could see the calculation in her eyes, the desperate weighing of options. And if I choose option 2, then we burn it all down, Naima said. And you burn with it. 30 seconds passed. A minute. The tension in the room was suffocating. Then, slowly, Hua Rin reached for the contract. Read it, line by line. Her face a mask of barely controlled rage. She pulled out a pen. I want it on record, she said, voice shaking with fury. That this is extortion, blackmail, criminal conspiracy. Noted, Kang said. Sign. Hua Rin signed. Each stroke of the pen looked like it physically hurt her. When she finished, she threw the pen at Kang. He caught it without flinching. You think this is over? She hissed. You think you've won? Yes, Naima said simply. I do. This changes nothing. I'm still powerful, still connected, still... finished, Kang interrupted. You're finished. Whether you accept that now or later is irrelevant. He stood, offered his hand to Naima. She took it. They walked toward the exit together, leaving Hua Rin sitting alone at the table, surrounded by witnesses to her destruction. At the door, Naima paused, looked back. Dr. Rowe? She called out. I know you're listening. This message is for you, too. Somewhere in the crowd, she saw movement, the flash of a familiar face. I want you to know, she continued, that every life saved by my research, every patient cured, every family that doesn't have to watch someone they love die needlessly, that's on me, and you'll never be able to claim it. You'll spend the rest of your career known as the man who tried to steal a cure from the world. She didn't wait for a response. Just turned and walked out into the night with Kang's hand warm in hers. Outside, the air was cool, clean. Naima breathed it in like she'd been drowning. We did it, she said, barely believing it. We actually did it. You did it, Kang corrected. You're the one who refused to stay dead, who rebuilt everything they tried to destroy. I just provided the leverage. Naima turned to face him. This man who'd dragged her from a bathtub and given her reasons to keep breathing, who'd shot her to save her, who'd declared war on his own family because she asked him to. What happens now? She asked. Now? Kang cupped her face in his hands. Now you decide who you want to be. The woman who walks away and starts fresh, or the woman who stays and watches her research change the world? And you? Where do you fit in that decision? Wherever you want me, he said. I told you from the beginning. When this was over, you'd be free. I meant it. If you want to leave, I'll make sure you have everything you need. New identity, protection, resources. You'll never have to look over your shoulder again. And if I want to stay? Something fierce and desperate flashed across his face. Then I'll spend every day proving I'm worth the risk. Naima smiled, reached up, pulled him down into a kiss that tasted like victory and vengeance and the start of something new. When they finally broke apart, she said, I'm not going anywhere. Not yet. I have clinical trials to run, lives to save. And maybe, she paused, maybe someone to learn how to trust. That might take a while. We have time. She laced her fingers through his. For the first time in 6 years, we have all the time in the world. They walked to the car together. Behind them, Hansong glowed with 1,000 lights. Ahead of them, the future stretched out uncertain and dangerous and full of possibility. Naima had tried to disappear into that bathtub, tried to erase herself from a world that didn't want her. Instead, she'd become someone the world would never forget. And she'd done it by refusing to die quietly. By standing up, fighting back, taking control of her own story. 3 months later, the first clinical trials began. 6 months after that, the cure was approved for widespread use. Within a year, Naima Adeyemi was nominated for awards she'd once only dreamed of. Her research saved thousands, then millions. Dr. Elias Rowe was stripped of his credentials. Helix Pharmaceutical collapsed under the weight of lawsuits and public outrage. SEO Hua Rin disappeared from public life entirely, last seen boarding a flight to a country without extradition treaties. And Naima? She stood in the lab Kang had built for her. Not the one in the warehouse. A real one, legitimate, funded by pharmaceutical companies who wanted to be on the right side of history. Kang leaned in the doorway, watching her work, like always. You look happy, he said. I am. And it was true. Though I'd be happier if you stopped hovering. Not hovering, admiring. It's creepy. It's romantic. It's both. He laughed, crossed the lab, wrapped his arms around her from behind, careful not to disturb her work. For what it's worth, He murmured against her ear. I'm glad I broke into that hotel room. You mean kidnapped me? Saved you. Kept me prisoner. Protected you. Shot me. Okay, that one I'll admit was questionable. He turned her in his arms. But I'd do it all again. Every questionable, morally gray, definitely criminal choice. If it meant you're here, now. Alive and brilliant and changing the world. Naima looked up at him. This beautiful, dangerous man who'd pulled her from the water and taught her how to breathe fire. You know I'm never going to let you forget that you shot me, right? I know. I'm going to bring it up at dinner parties. I don't go to dinner parties. We'll start, just so I can embarrass you. Kang smiled, kissed her forehead, her cheek, her mouth. Worth it, he said. And somewhere in the space between who she'd been and who she'd become, Naima believed him. She walked into the water ready to disappear. She walked out holding the power to burn an empire. And in the end, Dr. Naima Adeyemi proved that sometimes the best revenge isn't dying quietly. It's living loud enough that the world has no choice but to listen. If you want more stories of people who refused to stay broken, who stood up and took back their power, subscribe now to Afro-Korean Story Vault, and don't forget to turn on your notification button. Because the best stories? They're the ones where the survivor becomes the storm. See you in the next story.